This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you.
Five Nights at Freddy's has been going strong for over 11 years now, and doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. And over the course of that time, as a community, we have solved hundreds of mysteries within this franchise. But there's still just one mystery, and ironically, one of the biggest in the franchise, that no one, not one person, has solved. And that's the lost and true story of Golden Freddy. And in this video, instead of me labeling my video as Golden Freddy Solved, we're simply going to pull together all of the information that we know about Golden Freddy to better help us understand what we're dealing with. Because I sincerely believe if we can solve Golden Freddy, it'll help us immensely moving forward in FNAF. And so let's dive into possibly one of Scott's biggest lore plots of FNAF. And it all starts 11 years ago in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. And since we're going, all the way far back to the first FNAF game, it just goes to show that Golden Freddy was a big foundation for the entire game franchise. Now, Golden Freddy throughout the gameplay of FNAF 1 has a 1 in 1,000th chance to appear in your office sitting in front of you all clumpled over, and if you stare at him for too long, he will crash your game. He also can appear in the hallway on one of the posters every now and then as the poster changes from Freddy to the front face of Golden Freddy. But there was also another key defining factor. Once you got past night 5, you unlocked the custom night where you could set Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, and Foxy at their own different AI levels. And if you input the code like this, 1987, you would get a Golden Freddy jump scare. And there's already a direct connection between Golden Freddy in the year of 1987. I wonder what that could be.
Was that the bite of 87?
Good old Markiplier. Now, moving on to FNAF 2, we have a different shift in the look of Golden Freddy, and the mystery continues just to get even bigger. Golden Freddy pretty much acts the same in FNAF 2. He has a chance of showing up in your office when you drop down your camera, and of course, if you look at him too long, he will jump scare you. But this time his model looks almost kind of like the withered animatronics. So he's missing an ear with wires hanging out of it, and he doesn't look as clean and put together as he did in FNAF 1. And also sometimes when you flash your flashlight down into the hallway, you'll see a big giant floating head of Golden Freddy for whatever reason. In between the nights of FNAF 2, you will have the nightmare sequences where you are standing having the POV vision of Freddy on stage, with Chica to your left and Bonnie to your right. On night 3, Golden Freddy appears in front of you, but there's one key difference about this figure. It seems to be the better put together version of Golden Freddy that we see in FNAF 1. He has both of his ears and he looks a lot cleaner. So yeah, just very mysterious and honestly doesn't line up. And so obviously, in the FNAF lore, it seems like Scott Cawthon is placing a very big emphasis on Golden Freddy. So what are we going to get in FNAF 3? Absolutely nothing. Scott, what were you doing here? What was going on? Well, not entirely. There are a couple references to Golden Freddy in FNAF 3, but it's a pretty big shift to have such a prominent character to really not even having him at all. One of the references to Golden Freddy is in the Happiest Day minigame. It's theorized that the crying child is the child that we're trying to help move on, and at the end of the minigame series, the crying child puts on a mask that theoretically could be the Golden Freddy mask. Also, in the bad ending of FNAF 3, when you have all the animatronic heads with their eyes lit up, behind the initial 4 animatronics, there is a mysterious head that is theorized to be Golden Freddy, which it only makes sense for it to be Golden Freddy. Another interesting reference, and it's not exactly Golden Freddy, but you can have Shadow Freddy appear in your office in FNAF 3. Now, like we know from FNAF 2, Shadow Freddy is basically a direct copy of Golden Freddy. It's just purple, so maybe there's another story going on there that's quite interesting. Another reference that we have of Golden Freddy in FNAF 3 is the Stage 01 minigame, which we believe is supposed to be Fredbear's family diner. But like we all know, Fredbear has a purple hat and purple bow tie, as to where Golden Freddy has a black hat and a black bow tie. But anyway, in this minigame, we actually pilot Golden Freddy on the stage along with Spring Bonnie as we're, trying to fulfill the Happiest Day minigames. And that's it in FNAF 3. That's all we get. Now, moving on to FNAF 4, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Because as we all know, FNAF 4 primarily has a lot to do with the story of the crying child. And so after every single night, we get to play a minigame going through the day in the life of the crying child, talking to his friends, being bullied by his brother, and also to the point of...
Bite of 87?
No, not the bite of 87, but in fact... the bite of 83. We finally have a little bit more concrete evidence about Golden Freddy and his origins of being Fredbear. Now, there was a big debate amongst the community of whether or not Fredbear and Golden Freddy are the same animatronic or not. I happen to believe that they are the same animatronic, except Golden Freddy is the result of the crying child's death and also the death of possibly the vengeful spirit. But we'll talk about all of the theories later. Right now, we're just talking about where Golden Freddy shows up in. So obviously in FNAF 4, we see Fredbear on stage, which then he commits the great bite of the crying child. And we also play against Nightmare Fredbear in FNAF 4. But honestly, after FNAF 4, we don't really see Golden Freddy anymore. Sure, he appears every now and then as more of an Easter egg and sprite rather than a main character like we see in FNAF 1 and FNAF 2. But the story of Golden Freddy feels like it's over, it's finished, but we really don't know what it was. There really wasn't a whole lot of Golden Freddy shown in Pizzeria Simulator. Obviously, we get Fredbear's jump scare in Ultimate Custom Night, as well as, the ending scene of Golden Freddy fading off into the distance, but that's it. That's all we get. And moving forward with newer FNAF games, we've never really come back to Golden Freddy. Like I've said, there's been some Easter eggs out there, but that's about it. So it feels like this story for Scott is over, it's finished, but did we miss something? Because we really have not solved Golden Freddy at all. Everything that we know about Golden Freddy is merely speculation. What spirits haunt Golden Freddy is speculation. The origins of Golden Freddy is all speculation. We don't know 100% concrete anything about Golden Freddy. But let's talk about some of the theories that we do believe that we are pretty close to 100% agreeing with. So now let's cover the theory that a lot of people have about what spirit haunts Golden Freddy. Now, a lot of this theory came from Ultimate Custom Night, where we all kind of noticed that there was one lead spirit who was in control of creating this hellscape for William Afton and was forcing him to play this game over and over and over, torturing him for the ways that he tortured whoever this spirit was. And throughout the game, we learned that this spirit is referred to as the one you should not have killed. And then the speculations begin, because when was this victim killed? Now, if we go back to FNAF 1, Golden Freddy is there. And according to the newspapers on the hallways, there were 5 murder victims of the MCI, which we believe happened in 1985. But it doesn't take a genius to recognize that when you're playing FNAF 1, we're only up against 4 main animatronics most of the time, but then there's Golden Freddy. So is the 5th victim, the one you should not have killed, Golden Freddy? Well, throughout the lore of FNAF, we find out how William Afton commits most of his murders of the MCI. It seems that after he murdered the children, he stuffed their bodies into the 4 animatronic suits. But Golden Freddy is not just any animatronic. He's also a Springlock suit, so you probably know where this is going. Because throughout FNAF, there have been several key references to Golden Freddy and the idea of drowning in your own blood. And if you want to hear this in great detail, check out this video by Rye Toast. He lays it out super great. But for the sake of this video, here's just a couple things. In FNAF AR Special Delivery, Golden Freddy has a skin where he basically has chains all around him. And in one of the DLCs, he is trapped inside of a tank of water, representing Golden Freddy drowning. Also, in one of the Pizzaplex books, there is a chapter called Drowning, which seems to have some very direct connections to Golden Freddy and the Vengeful Spirit. In the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, we can see a red lake where Dreadbear emerges from. And also in Ultimate Custom Night, when you play as Fredbear with Old Man Consequences, you can force yourself down into the Red Lake and drown. And sure enough, in the Silver Eyes trilogy, William Afton describes being spring-locked as drowning in your own blood. And so having Golden Freddy with all of these references to drowning only makes sense for the victim who was stuffed inside of the Golden Freddy suit to be stuffed in there alive and then was spring-locked, which is probably one of the worst ways that you could ever die. And with this such agony-filled event, that's what gives this spirit more power than the others. I think it honestly makes sense too, just from the cutscene that we get from Ultimate Custom Night of Golden Freddy twitching. This scene is supposed to, reflect the scene of Springtrap from FNAF 3 twitching. This is what a spring-locked suit does when a person is inside of it being spring-locked. But how is it possible for a spirit to be able to control and create and manipulate an entire world like we see in Ultimate Custom Night? And this is where Fazbear Frights really helps us begin to understand more about the FNAF lore. In Fazbear Frights, in one of my favorite stories, which is called The Man in Room 1280, a man which we believe is William Afton is brought to the hospital and he's badly burned. And whenever the doctors try to do something to either help William Afton or even put him out of his misery, they can't because something is stopping them. And after doing several brain scans on William Afton, they realize there are multiple consciousnesses inside William Afton's brain. It's not just him, there is another one. And in the books, the name of this spirit is Andrew, and Andrew is the vengeful spirit of the Fazbear Frights books. And he is basically putting William Afton through this torment that we see in Ultimate Custom Night. But how does this work in the games? Because after FNAF 3's fire, obviously William Afton survived, but he was burned to a crisp, and he would have had to have done repair on himself. And if we look at the model of Scrap Trap, which is what we see in Pizzeria Simulator, there are parts of him that don't belong to the original Spring Bonnie costume. More notably, the feet, because Springtrap didn't even have real actual animatronic feet. But these look identical to Golden Freddy's feet. What this sounds like to me is William Afton, after surviving the FNAF 3 fire, was able to repair himself using the only other spring lock animatronic from the same time period as the Spring Bonnie suit, and that would have been Fredbear / Golden Freddy. But William Afton sometimes is smart, but he's also sometimes pretty dumb. And by doing that, he combined the vengeful spirit into himself. And so now the Golden Freddy suit isn't no more. Instead, it's on him. And this gives the vengeful spirit an open door to do exactly what we see in Ultimate Custom Night and not letting William Afton die or move on. And I think this is best seen at the end of Ultimate Custom Night with that final cutscene of Golden Freddy twitching and disappearing off in the distance, basically saying you are going to be here forever. And so that's who we believe haunts the Golden Freddy costume. But what is the name of this vengeful spirit? And as many of you probably know, the logbook is where many people believe we have discovered the name of the vengeful spirit, that being the name of Cassidy. You see, this book was released just a couple weeks after FNAF 6, and throughout the book, there seems to be 3 people communicating through it. First of all, Michael in red ink, and supposedly the crying child in the altar text throughout the book, as well as the vengeful spirit throughout the faded text in the book. And by piecing together certain clues using some of the altered text and some of the word searches, we were able to come up with the name Cassidy, which I believe has honestly been confirmed by Scott himself. Because for the FNAF 1 movie, he gave us a list of some of these scrapped scripts that they were going to possibly use for the film. And one of these scripts was called the Cassidy script. And Scott said that this would have been a wonderful movie script for us lore deep divers, but really wouldn't appeal to the public general audience. Now there is another theory surrounding Golden Freddy, and that is the fact that Cassidy, in fact, is not the only one who was haunting Golden Freddy. Some people believe that actually the crying child, which was the bite victim of Fredbear when Golden Freddy was Fredbear, actually haunts this costume as well. And a lot of people point to the parallels of the Stitch Wraith, which is in the Fazbear Frights books, with the 2 spirits of Jake and Andrew haunting this metal endoskeleton as a direct parallel to Golden Freddy. And honestly, I have to say, it is very compelling. So in Fazbear's Frights, Andrew haunts the main body of the endoskeleton while Jake possesses the head, basically controlling the animatronic. But Andrew, since he possesses the body, is unable to actually see anything. And now in the security logbook, we see Cassidy talking to the crying child and asks this specific question: "What can you see?" And the crying child responds, "I can't see," just like the Stitch Wraith from Fazbear Frights. And so honestly, Fazbear Frights does help us understand how this could be possible, and even outlines the fact that two spirits can haunt one endoskeleton. But you can also interpret all of this differently. You could say that Cassidy is the only one that actually officially haunts Golden Freddy, which honestly I like a little bit more. Because the crying child, yes, well, he was effectively killed by Fredbear, he didn't die there. In FNAF 4, it seems that the crying child went in some sort of a coma and then died in a hospital. And so for his spirit to actually haunt that suit, maybe something else transpired there, but it makes more sense to say that he didn't. And it's just as easy to say that the crying child is merely wandering around from place to place and going into the pizzeria looking for friends, and he sees Golden Freddy, and through his agony of the event that took place in 1983, he doesn't see Cassidy. He sees his plush bear of Fredbear, the one that he trusts his entire life, and so kind of sticks around Golden Freddy for a long time, which is why we see them communicating in the security logbook, and which is also why we get "it's me" whenever Golden Freddy is around, because it's the crying child trying to reach out to Michael, saying, "Hey, it's me, it's your brother." And so honestly, both theories are very compelling. I could see either one going either way, and to be honest, I don't really know which one I believe yet. And right now, that's where we stand with Golden Freddy and, the spirits that haunt him. But like I said before, this is still a theory. There are a ton of things with Golden Freddy that are not 100% guaranteed. And hopefully, in the future, we will learn more. That way we can put to rest Golden Freddy and finally let him move on. And if you have any theories about Golden Freddy that I did not cover, leave them in the comments below. I love replying to comments. And my fellow FNAFologists, if you liked today's video, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.